Hello and welcome. Tribunal affirms the victory of Yahaya Bello of the APC in the November 16, 2019 governorship elections in Kogi State, says PDP candidate failed to prove allegation of election malpractice. PDP candidate in the Kogi State governorship election, Musa Wada, vows to appeal tribunal judgment upholding the election of Yahaya Bello. Ahead of tomorrow's Eid al-Fitr celebrations, President Buhari calls on Muslim faithful in the country to keep their spirits up as the nation continues to battle the COVID-19 pandemic. And thousands of people troop out in Spain in protest against the government's handling of the coronavirus outbreak. Plus, business and sports.
On business news, financial expert projects rise in non-performing loans in 2020 as COVID-19 pandemic affects availability of credit facilities.
On sports news tonight, La Liga to return from June the 8th after Spanish government gives green light for football to restart.
A sweet victory for the Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello as the State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal sitting in the nation's capital Abuja has affirmed his election, setting aside the petition filed by the PDP candidate, Mr. Musa Wada. In a judgment of 2-1 delivered by the chairman of the tribunal, Justice Kashim Kaigama, the tribunal held that the petitioner, Mr. Musa Wada, failed to prove the allegations of overvoting, mass thumbprinting, voter intimidation, as well as other allegations of electoral malpractices. However, there was a dissenting voice, that's Justice Ohimai Oviavile, who nullified the election of Governor Bello and ordered INEC to conduct fresh elections in 7 local government areas where the petitioners proved the allegations of electoral malpractices.
It is the scaling of another hurdle for Governor Yahaya Bello of Kogi State, as the State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal affirmed his election as a duly elected governor of Kogi State. Delivering judgment in the appeal filed by the People's Democratic Party and its candidate, Mr. Musa Wada, challenging the victory of Mr. Bello in the November 16, 2019 governorship election held in Kogi State, the chairman of the tribunal dismissed the petition of Mr. Wada for failing to prove the allegations of overvoting, massive thumbprinting and voter intimidation. The position of the chairman is shared by another member of the panel, but in a dissenting judgment, Justice Ohimai Oviavile faults the decision of the 2 justices as he nullified the election of Mr. Yahaya Bello on the grounds that the election that brought him to office was characterized by serious violence, voter intimidation, overvoting and other electoral malpractices. Lawyers to Governor Yahaya Bello and the Independent National Electoral Commission expressed happiness over the verdict of the tribunal.
We are pleased with the judgment. We thank my lords for the industry to the judgment. In the main, the majority judgment is that all the allegations of overvoting, irregularities were not proved. And even the reliance of the so-called expert evidence required corroboration, and which was not established.
Very happy with the judgment of the tribunal, even though it is 2 against 1. But as far as we are concerned, even though it's 2 against 1, it's victory for us. So we are very pleased with the judgment.
The petitioners, however, disagreed with the majority judgment as they vowed to go on appeal.
Let me salute His Lordship, Honorable Justice Oviavile, who delivered the dissenting judgment. It represents the law. And I think it was the Lord Denny that said in Parker and Parker that what is the argument on the other side? It has not been done before. If we say it has not been done before and we cannot do it, the world will move ahead and will remain standstill. He looked at the evidence before him, came to conclusion that the election in 7 local governments were plagued with fundamental irregularities where massive thumbprinting was done.
The People's Democratic Party and its candidate, Mr. Musa Wada, had approached the tribunal with a petition seeking to overturn the victory of Mr. Yahaya Bello as the duly elected governor of Kogi State.
In a swift reaction, Governor Bello describes his success at the tribunal as a reaffirmation of his landmark victory in the November 16th governorship poll. In a statement, the governor says the judgment is also a validation of the people's mandate, a motivation for him to do more for the people of Kogi State. He lauded the tribunal for being upright and just, then thanked the people of the state for their support and prayers. According to him, the rule of law once again came to the defense of democracy by affirming the collective will of the people. Well, his opponent is having none of that. Mr. Musa Wada has vowed to appeal the judgment of the election tribunal, which dismissed his petition. The PDP candidate told Channels Television that the dissenting judgment by Justice Obiagele is a clear indication that the election of Mr. Bello was flawed. He insists that the majority judgment of the tribunal is not a true reflection of the events that played out on November the 16th, 2019 in Kogi State.
The dissenting judgment made it clear that there was massive thumb printing in the whole of Central just by 5 people. So and don't forget that the dissenting judgment by number 1 said the Governor Bello's certificate of return must be given back to INEC, an election to hold within 90 days. So that pleases me a lot. I'm so gallant in defeat because I know there are appellate courts to take these appeals to, and I'm very ready to do that. I want to congratulate Kogi people that their stolen mandate, as exemplified by the judgment of member number 1, will be returned, because this is just the beginning of the appeal. You can see my countenance, I'm not bothered at all. I'm hoping that justice will be done, because I still believe judiciary is the hope of the common man. So I'm appealing to my Kogi people who voted for me overwhelmingly that the battle has just started.
As the world continues its battle against COVID-19, the president is asking Muslims in Nigeria to keep their spirit up despite the health crisis. In his message to the faithful ahead of the Eid al-Fitr tomorrow, President Muhammadu Buhari acknowledged that the COVID-19 pandemic has taken a heavy toll on the people's spiritual, social, and economic lives, dampening what would have been a time of celebration to mark the end of the Ramadan. The president said it's an enormous sacrifice to give up important duties and activities that characterize the festival, but it has become imperative to limit the spread of COVID-19. He said further, "Let me use this opportunity to commend the sacrifices of both Muslims and Christians for their cooperation in the enforcement of the social distancing guidelines. I am well aware of the inconveniences these tough measures have brought on the lives of Nigerians, including limiting religious activities and gatherings in large numbers. No government would intentionally impose these tough and demanding measures on its citizens if it had a choice." The president also appealed for the understanding of other Nigerians whose businesses have been badly hit by the lockdown, promising that the measures would not last longer than necessary. And more messages on the occasion of the Eid al-Fitr, and this time from the leadership of the National Assembly. The Senate President, Ahmed Lawan, is extending his best wishes to Nigerians, and especially the Muslim faithful, for the successful completion of the Ramadan, despite the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Senator Lawan asked Muslims to continue to observe the health precautions and sustain the acts of purity, charity, perseverance, and tolerance, and also pray for God's intervention against all the challenges confronting the nation and the world. He also commended all the healthcare and other essential services providers who are at the front line of the fight against the COVID-19, assuring them of the National Assembly's full support. Meanwhile, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, is asking Muslims to imbibe virtues such as feeding the needy, being their brother's keepers, and prayers for peaceful coexistence of Nigerians. But most especially, the Speaker says intense prayers should be made for an end to the COVID-19 pandemic that has been ravaging countries all over the world, including Nigeria. He says the season provides an opportunity to remember the good things God has done, while emphasizing the need for Muslims to adhere strictly to the teachings of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. He encouraged Muslim faithful that celebrating this year's Eid al-Fitr on the low-key is unfortunate, but it's not the making of anyone. In Kano State, the government is insisting that prayers will be conducted across the state tomorrow to mark the end of the Ramadan. The State Commissioner for Information, Mr. Mohammed Garba, told Channels Television that after consultations with relevant bodies, Governor Abdullahi Ganduje approved that Eid prayers be held in the various prayer grounds. He, however, explained that efforts have been put in place to limit the number of people that gather in mosque, with Governor Ganduje directing strict enforcement of the use of face masks and physical distancing. Top government officials, including commissioners, special advisors, and heads of government agencies, are to ensure compliance with the protocols at the different Eid prayer locations across the 44 local government areas. Security officials have also been directed to ensure that all safety measures are adhered to. While Kano maintains its stance on public worship, the Benue State government has reversed its decision to reopen worship places and markets across the state, following the pressure from the Christian Association of Nigeria and the Muslim community in the state. According to Governor Samuel Otom, the decision is premised on the federal government's advice to states to be careful about restarting economic and social activities. According to the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, Benue has recorded 5 cases of COVID-19 as of Friday, out of which 2 have tested negative twice and have been discharged.
The Christian Association of Nigeria have also given their backing to the federal government. The Jamaatul Nasrul Islam have also given their backing to the federal government that it will be too early and premature for us to open our churches and allow public gathering, marketplaces and all that. I hereby announce the suspension of the lifting of ban on activities of Benue people, and to say that we have reversed it back to where we were. So there will be no church services where people must gather, whether in church or in burials or in ceremonies, must not exceed the number of 30, as we have said earlier.
In part 2, after the break, more updates on COVID-19. Players in the food supply chain are considered essential service providers and so are not affected by COVID-19 restrictions. But farmers say they are part of those hit hardest by the pandemic. Find out why in a moment. Join us again. You just joined us. You're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Tribunal affirms the victory of Yahaya Bello of the APC in the November 16, 2019 governorship election in Kogi State. Says PDP candidate failed to prove allegation of election malpractice. PDP candidate in the Kogi State governorship election, Musa Wada, vows to appeal tribunal judgment upholding the election of Governor Yahaya Bello. Ahead of tomorrow's Eid al-Fitr celebrations, President Buhari calls on Muslim faithful in the country to keep their spirits up as the nation continues to battle the COVID-19 pandemic. And thousands of people troop out in Spain in protest against the government's handling of the coronavirus outbreak. Plus, business and sports. Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku. The Ramadan, observed by Muslims worldwide, is a month of fasting and prayers, and it ends today. And this will be followed by the celebrations tomorrow. As Muslims in Lagos get set to mark this religious activity, Channels Television spoke with some of the faithful on how they observe the Ramadan amidst the coronavirus pandemic.
Fasting from sunrise to sunset is obligatory for all adult Muslims during Ramadan, with exemptions only on health reasons. This year's observance was disrupted by the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic, making it difficult for Muslims to gather for the usual community prayers and breaking a fast at the end of each day. With many spiritual benefits at stake during the fasting period, many, including this Muslim cleric, have come to terms with this and other changes occasioned by guidelines to stop the spread of the virus.
It was a difficult period, but even at that, we just have to carry out Allah's injunction, God's injunction that, okay, it's a fasting period, which is enjoined on every Muslims to do.
To cope with the difficulty caused by COVID-19, Shola Disa, a Muslim, included the sale of drinks and other consumables to her business of fashion design, just to make ends meet.
If not, the sense I used small. It's not easy to feed a guy, big guy for house. Most of them are supposed to be in the school. They are at home. They must eat.
Although Eid al-Fitr is not a festival for the slaughtering of ram, some Muslims may desire to do so, at least for the family. The Kara market along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, popular for the sale of cattle, is devoid of customers. Sales are slow. Those who can afford it complain about the increase in prices.
Last year, at least if you are with 15,000 naira, 18,000 naira, you go on with something tangible. But this year now, from 28,000 upward, before you can say you have something tangible.
People are fearing to come because of no movement. That's why many people are fearing to come out, come and buy.
With cases of the coronavirus still rising in Lagos and other parts of the country, coupled with a partial lockdown, the celebration may be low-key.
45 COVID-19 patients have been discharged in Lagos after they tested negative for the disease. The State Ministry of Health announced this on its Twitter handle, saying the patients are 22 females and 23 males, all Nigerians. 19 of them from the mainland infectious disease hospital Yaba, 3 from Unikon, 8 from Agidingbi, 7 from Lekki, 1 from Etiosa Landmark, and 7 from the Lagos Teaching Hospital Luth Isolation Centers. With this, the number of patients successfully managed and discharged from the isolation facilities in Lagos has risen. 30 COVID-19 patients have been discharged from the Dutse Isolation Center in Jalingo, in Jigawa State, after testing negative twice for the virus. The Commissioner for Health, Dr. Abba Zakari, who confirmed this to journalists in Dutse, the state capital, says the state has also recorded 7 new cases. According to him, these new cases are Amajiri that were repatriated from other states to Jigawa State. The current ease of lockdown in Ogun State has been extended by a week, with the window of relaxation on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday between 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. each day till May the 31st. This was announced by Governor Dapo Abiodun during a press conference at his office in Abeokuta, the state capital. The governor explained that the second phase of the relaxation will begin on June the 1st.
After all considerations, we are constrained to take the painful but necessary decision to continue the eased lockdown of Ogun State for another 1 week till Sunday 31st, May 2020. As we always maintained, The delicate balance between life and livelihood, we will continue to have a window of relaxation from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Monday, 25th May 2020, Wednesday, 27th May, and Friday, 29th May 2020. You must also bear in mind that the daily curfew from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. and the ban on non-essential interstate travel, as directed by Mr. President, still stands. The current phase of the ease of lockdown will terminate on 31st May. The second phase will commence on 1st of June. This will be accompanied with a further ease of lockdown and expansion of relaxation windows.
In the implementation of the lockdown as a measure of curbing the spread of COVID-19, not just in Nigeria but around the world, food production and supply have been grouped as an essential service, and therefore operators are allowed to carry on with their businesses. However, business has been far from normal for many farmers in Nigeria. Our correspondent, John Mekwa, reports that some of the farmers believe that they are part of the hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic.
I know it's very tough, but we are going to do it accordingly.
Mr. Wale Oyekoya deals in cash crops in Lagos State. His daily routine includes instructing his employees before they set to work.
Go back to your place of work so that let me see what you are doing.
Here they deal in plantain, pineapple, cassava and other common crops. Mr. Oyekoya says while he appreciates the efforts of the government as well as the exemptions given to farmers like him, they've been recording losses.
Some of your farm produce have to be consumed by people doing parties or have for engagement, maybe for wedding. It's a very big challenge that most of the farm produce, most of them perish in the farm.
According to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, Nigeria has the second largest chicken population in Africa, producing about 300,000 tons of poultry meat and 650,000 tons of eggs as at 2013.
The sales of egg actually crashed when it comes to purchasing power. You know, everybody's afraid and people are not actually coming out to actually patronize us. So it has not been easy. Moreover, apart from that, you know, the price of feed is actually going up as well.
This one I used to have 15, is remaining 7. I don't know which of them will survive.
The trend extends to the not-so-common source of protein. Mrs. Patience Oshodi is an aqua and pig farmer, participating in about $3 billion of consumption value of pork, which is shared between Nigeria and neighboring Ghana.
Having done it for 3.5 years, I should get expansion. So I went into facility, borrowing as it is. So I borrowed and to do the business in December. So hoping that in May, we will get a good projection. As it is now, because of the COVID-19 and ASF, it has affected the pigs.
She puts her losses at over 100 pigs within the last 2 months because of the spread of African swine fever, ASF. ASF is not new in the business. However, she says because of the lack of sales, there was a fast spread among the pigs, resulting in a large scale of loss. Hers is a small part of the 145,000 pigs lost in Okearu market alone.
We have 3,000 farmers, including male and female. So also we have about 10,000 workers working in this place. So if they don't come, that means these people will be jobless.
Some good may actually come out of these trying situations. Agribusiness Solutions consultant Taiwo Luadaonshola challenges the private sector to take up the challenge and think outside the box.
We must begin to take our markets online, structure our markets from farm to table to go directly from farmers to final consumers.
With the global price of oil still on the low, affecting the revenue of the country, perhaps adding innovation to mechanized farming may indeed boost the country's revenue earnings. John Mekwa, Channels Television News.
Let's examine this issue further, and joining us live from our studios in Abuja is the National Secretary of the Federation of Agricultural Commodities of Nigeria, Dr. Bello Dogandaji. A pleasure having you with us on the news at 10.
It's my pleasure. Good evening.
From your association's assessment of the impact of COVID-19, how much would you say the crisis has affected farmers?
Deeply. deeply because you have seen a lot of losses here and there simply because of the restrictions characterized with COVID-19. You see, it is a global economic crisis, and Nigeria is not in isolation. As a matter of fact, we are in festive mood, as you can see, but the business is down, completely down. Under normal circumstances, situations like this, you see the movement of agricultural commodities moving from one end to another. But as it is, you are seeing nothing, simply because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
What steps do you think should be taken immediately to avert further losses?
Well, the losses, we know the losses. Once the movement is allowed, we are already taking measures that would curtail the present crisis. We have seen what the farmers are suffering, and that the government should come up and remedy the situation as a matter of urgency. Because if the situation improves, goes as it is, this country will be in problem because of production. There will be low production, and consequently, it will come to an issue of food security. So something got to be done at the earliest time.
But what about your members? Are they exploring ways of tapping into the loan provisions by the central bank towards assisting small businesses?
Our members are doing their best to ensure that they key into these programs. But as a matter of fact, there are a lot of issues associated with accessing this support or intervention from central bank. These issues are centered around who is going to guarantee who. A farmer, you say you should get someone that will guarantee him. Maybe someone on grade level 14 and above, or a lawyer, or a community leader, simply because he is accessing 500,000 or above. So most of the farmers that have applied, honestly, I have not seen one person that has gotten it. People are reporting that they have been interviewed, but no result is out yet. Some people are saying that they have been cleared and they are supposed to go and open an account with the microfinance, but I have not seen one person reporting to me.
Dr.
Yes.
Bello Dogandaji, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on the News at 10.
You're welcome. Thank you.
When the News at 10 returns, we have more updates on COVID-19. Plus, financial expert projects rise in non-performing loans in 2020 as COVID-19 pandemic affects availability of credit facilities. That's on Business News. Join us again. In the southeast, the Anambra State House of Assembly Ad hoc Committee on COVID-19 has expressed satisfaction with the proactive measures taken by the state government to contain the spread of the coronavirus in the state. The committee members made the assertion when they inspected the protective care centers in several communities. According to the chairman of the committee, the various facilities show the state's preparedness to take up any case of COVID-19.
With 4 confirmed cases in Anambra State, members of the State Assembly Ad hoc Committee on COVID-19 Prevention are out to see if the state is ready for a possible surge. The mission is to inspect the protective care centers and measure the level of compliance to the ban on interstate movement. Their first stopover is at the Protective Care Center at Umuaulu, Mboku, where the State Commissioner for Health walks them through the 240-bed facility.
The capacity is such that we can blow this out to 1,000 beds.
They currently have the capacity to take 240.
It is very, very pertinent that we communicate to the Anambra that COVID-19 is real. We've gone around, we are seeing that Anambra State is prepared to fight against COVID-19.
Next is the Onitsha Protective Care Center with 58 beds. It's a highly infectious disease unit section with restricted access.
Each of the rooms have a lot of gadgets, centrally piped oxygen, rooms built in suite, and then ventilators and other facilities you have there, like the airline, one of the resuscitators that when you use it on a patient that is, has hypertension, you notice that you can infuse a lot of fluid in that individual under 2 minutes to resuscitate them if they are in shock.
Third on the list is Aguleri Protective Care Center, which is equipped with 12 beds and ventilators.
Oxygen saturation, which for COVID-19, for example, is it's a very important parameter to check in those patients, the saturation level, how the red blood cells are saturating oxygen.
The committee rounds off their inspection at Amansia, the border between Anambra and Enugu State, where they ask security agencies to do more to secure the border.
And in neighboring Imo State, the government is looking at how to reduce financial spending after COVID-19. Governor Hope Uzodinma has assented to the bill repealing the payment of pensions to the former governors, deputy governors, speakers, and their deputies. While assenting to the bill at the government house in Owerri, the state capital, Governor Uzodinma revealed that the initiative will help rebuild an economy that will stand the test of time.
I've seen cases where some people who occupied those offices after winning an election are also pensioners to the same state. In which case, if we allow this law to stay, you will have a situation where people are receiving pensions from 2 or 3 departments. So for prudence and consistent with our desire to embrace the rule of law and put governance and give governance a human face, we are very grateful to the House of Assembly for finding it and deeming it necessary to write these records and put Imo State among states that has already done this and has embraced the rule of law as way of governance.
Now let's find out what's happening in the world of business. Kayode is standing by with the details.
Well, thank you, Melinda, and you're welcome to Business News. Nigeria's banking sector is likely to witness a slight rise in non-performing loans for 2020 as the COVID-19 pandemic and the slip in crude oil prices continue to take a toll on the country's economy. According to a financial expert and Wema Bank's Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Tunde Mabaonku, who spoke on our capital market program, despite the 41% decline in non-performing loans in 2019, the uptick is inevitable due to the impact of the pandemic.
We will see a slight uptick in the NPLs as COVID impact will probably still be here for the better part of the year. So across the industry, you might see a slight uptick in NPLs. Across industry, you might see a tightening of net interest margins as customers appeal and push down the pricing of the loan book. In the industry, you see a lot more performance on the electronic banking channels. Our customers are being forced to migrate to e-platforms. So year on year, it will be a slower year than 2019, but I think the industry will pull through and have earnings almost equal to last year.
The Nigerian bourse ended the week on a strong note as the index surged 5.69% week on week to close at 25,204.75 points as a rise in crude price continued to support broader market momentum. The exchange saw gains in all the trading sessions this week, raising the year-to-date return to minus 6.10% from minus 11.70% the previous week. A total turnover of 1.718 billion shares worth 18.849 billion naira were exchanged in 26,367 deals by investors on the floor of the exchange. All sectors closed in positive territory, with industrial goods jumping 15.45%. The banking sector follows a trail of gainers by 7.24%. Oil and gas rose 4.89%, while insurance and consumer goods gained 2.02% and 0.89% each. And details of Nigeria's first quarter 2020 GDP report will be released on Monday, May the 25th at 9 a.m. And that's according to the National Bureau of Statistics. Already, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, has given a hint that the country's GDP might contract by about 8.9% in 2020. And that's due to the impact of COVID-19, while also adding that the economy lost 125 billion naira in expected revenue for the first quarter. Oil and gas, which is Nigeria's major revenue earnings, witnessed a shortfall inflow to about 940.91 billion naira. More stories. The naira at the I&E window strengthened by 65 kobo against the dollar to close at 386 naira 50 kobo as the Central Bank of Nigeria continues its intervention in the foreign exchange market. The perseverance on liquidity was majorly driven by banks who were the major buyers of foreign exchange. The improvement of the naira at the investors and exporters window is coming on the heels of improved liquidity at the foreign exchange market. Meanwhile, other FX market segments remained unchanged with little or no activity passing through these windows to significantly affect the rates. And that's Business News Tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I am Kayode Okikiolu. The news at 10 continues with Melinda.
Many thanks, Kayode. Momas Electricity Meters Manufacturing Company Limited has donated over 600 bags of rice, face masks and hand sanitizers to their host community in Obafemi Owode local government area in Ogun State. The company says this is its continuous effort to build a buffer to cushion the effect of COVID-19 on its neighbors.
Momas Electricity Meters Manufacturing Company Limited prides itself as a corporate social responsible company which positively impacts its community, which in this case is Orimerumo in Obafemi Owode local government area in Ogun State. One of the ways it has chosen to make its presence appreciated at this time is by disinfecting the environment where its headquarters is located. With the spread of COVID-19 connected to hygiene, Momas deems this a necessity. The company is also involved in the distribution of food, face masks, hand sanitizers, and educational items to 5 council development areas in Orimerumu, as well as their chiefs, women and youth groups.
When we reach now, we call the stakeholder. We have our list already of those that are on that group. Those to be helped, the widows, the less privileged that we have among us.
This gesture is a well thought out one, according to the company secretary.
What we have also done is that we have the fumigation machines which you have seen being paraded here. They have fumigated the community. What we are also doing is that we have mobilized particularly our health department and MOMEMCO to come here and sensitize the people that they should continue to listen to the instructions of the NCDC, the instructions of the Lagos State government, the instructions of the Federal Ministry of Health, and of course the federal government.
The company says their assistance to the community began long before now.
And as part of a community which we are also involved with, because we have actually donated boreholes for this school. We have actually donated a toilet as well, toilet facility. And now there's another project we're actually doing. If you look to the back, you will see construction work going on. That is part of our CSR project to the community.
Momas Electricity Meters Manufacturing Company Limited deals in prepaid meters as well as solutions for the delivery of electricity.
About 220,000 individuals across 22 countries, including Nigeria, are to benefit from a partnership between UNAIDS and Reckitt Benckiser Group to help protect people living with HIV/AIDS across Africa. The initiative, tagged Fight for Access Fund, is aimed at improving access to health, hygiene, nutrition, and will have a 3-month supply of 180,000 Dettol bar soap and 60,000 units of Jik bleach, valued at over 800 million naira. According to the general manager of the company and the health department, the purpose of the partnership is to protect, heal, and nurture people living with HIV/AIDS across Africa using the UNAIDS network. Meanwhile, the UNAIDS country director, Dr. Erasmus Mora, believes that the donation and delivery of hygiene kits is timely to help improve the network of people living with HIV/AIDS during the COVID-19 pandemic. Still ahead on the news at 10. La Liga to return from June the 8th after Spanish government's green light for football to restart. Also in Spain, thousands troop out in protest against the government's handling of the coronavirus outbreak. Join us again. For the latest in the world of sports, here's Ayotunde Balogun.
Many thanks, Melinda. We're starting off with football. In the German Bundesliga, Bayer Leverkusen FC beat Borussia Mönchengladbach 3-1 to climb on top of their opponents and reach the third position on the league table. Leonardo Bittencourt's 19th minute goal was enough to give visitors Werder Bremen all 3 points in the keenly contested encounter against Freiburg. Elsewhere, TSG Hoffenheim played a 1-1 draw with Paderborn, while Borussia Dortmund defeated Wolfsburg 2-0 at the Volkswagen Arena, courtesy of goals from Rafael Guerrero and Ashraf Hakimi. In the last game of the day, defending champions Bayern Munich beat Eintracht Frankfurt 5-2 to maintain a 4-point gap on the league table. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has confirmed that football in the country can return from June the 8th after more than 2 months disruption owing to the COVID-19 pandemic. Sanchez gave updates to the coronavirus pandemic status in Spain as the lockdown is eased across the country, and also put a concrete date on when top-flight football can be played. The Spanish La Liga was called off on March the 12th, just before the Seville derby between Real Betis and Sevilla. Players across La Liga are back in training sessions, allowed to compete in groups of up to 10 players each, and will finally return to unlimited group sizes in the coming days. WBC champion Tyson Fury says he is eager to give British boxing fans what they want by fighting Anthony Joshua for the undisputed world heavyweight title. Fury believes a meeting with Joshua has the potential to be the biggest match since Britain's Lennox Lewis and Frank Bruno fought way back in 1993. However, the Gypsy King admits that the duo must focus on their immediate opponents to make such a match happen. Joshua's next fight is with mandatory IBF challenger Kubrat Pulev, while Fury will take on Deontay Wilder in a rematch later this year. With professional tennis shut down by the novel coronavirus pandemic, world number 1 Novak Djokovic is bringing together some of the world's top tennis players for a series of matches to run from June the 13th to July the 5th in the Balkan region. The world number 3 Dominic Thiem of Austria and Bulgarian Grigor Dimitrov have confirmed their participation in the 8-man event, which will end with Djokovic's exhibition match against Bosnian Damir Zumor in Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia and Herzegovina. All pro tennis tours were suspended in early March and will not return before August as countries went into lockdown and closed borders to contain the spread of the virus. The United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee has confirmed that 51 staff positions will be eliminated as part of significant cuts to the organization caused by the coronavirus pandemic. The cost-cutting measures come as the Olympic Committee looks to trim up to 20% from its budget to make up for shortfalls caused by the virus. The latest job reductions, combined with more than 30 employees who accepted offers for voluntary redundancy, will result in a staff of around 500 being reduced by 1/5. The United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee brought in $172 million in broadcast rights after the Rio 2016 Olympics, and it is due to receive a larger amount if the rearranged Tokyo Olympics take place in 2021. And that's Sports News. I am Ayotunde Balogun.
Many thanks, Ayo. Thousands of people in Spain have protested against the government's handling of the coronavirus outbreak. The far-right Vox Party asked supporters to drive through major cities without leaving their vehicles in order to maintain social distancing. Spain is one of the countries that has been the hardest hit by the coronavirus outbreak, with more than 28,000 recorded deaths and 235,000 cases.
The streets of Spain's capital, Madrid, resound with the honk of car horns as thousands rally in the city. Protesters are calling for Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez and his deputy to resign over their handling of the coronavirus crisis. Spain, which imposed one of Europe's toughest lockdowns on March 14, has started to ease restrictions, but Madrid and Barcelona have remained in lockdown for longer because of more severe coronavirus outbreaks. After months under lockdown, life is getting back to normal for some. Worshippers in France are now allowed to attend religious gatherings. The places of worship, like all other publicly accessible institutions, must observe social distancing rules, among other sanitary measures. But in some worrying developments, more than 40 people have tested positive for the coronavirus following a church service in Germany. Officials say most of them who attended the service on May the 10th are not seriously ill. In the Middle East, Iran is moving ahead with plans to reopen religious and cultural sites on Sunday. Iran says more than 7,000 people have so far died from COVID-19, but health experts believe the number is much higher. For the first time since the outbreak began in December, no new coronavirus infections have been recorded in mainland China in a 24-hour period. But while cases dropped to zero in China, there's been a surge in Latin America. Brazil has recorded another big rise in the number of coronavirus infections, overtaking Russia as the country with the second highest number of cases after the United States. The latest figures follows the World Health Organization's declaration identifying South America as a new epicenter of the pandemic.
Main news again. The Kogi State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal today affirmed the victory of Yahaya Bello of the All Progressives Congress APC in the November 16, 2019 governorship election. The tribunal held that the PDP candidate failed to prove the allegation of election malpractice. But the PDP candidate, Musa Wada, vowed to appeal the tribunal judgment upholding the victory of Governor Yahaya Bello. And thousands of people today trooped out in Spain in protest against the government's handling of the coronavirus outbreak. That's the news at 10 tonight. On behalf of the team, good night.